Marjorie Taylor Greene is sitting down with 60 Minutes for her first interview following her surprise resignation announcement last month.
Greene had become a not infrequent critic of President Trump and his administration over recent months, splitting with her party on Obamacare during the government shutdown and signing the discharge petition to force the DOJ to turn over the Epstein files. That's the move that she says cemented the rift between her and the president. Take a listen.
We did talk about the Epstein files, and he was extremely angry at me that I had signed the discharge petition to release the files. I fully believe that those women deserve everything they're asking. They're asking for all of it to come out. They deserve it. And he was furious with me.
He said to you, people will get hurt.
People will get hurt. I don't know what that means. I don't know who they are.
Greene also took aim at the president for focusing too much on foreign policy and too little on domestic issues, even drawing a line between her views and also MAGA.
For an America First president, the #1 focus should have been domestic policy, and it wasn't. And so, of course, I was critical, because those were my campaign promises. Once we fix everything here, then fine, we'll talk to the rest of the world.
Are you MAGA?
I am America First.
And that's not the same as MAGA.
MAGA is President Trump's phrase. That's his political policies. I call myself America First.
She also shed some light on the Republican Party's frustration with Trump, appearing to suggest that the president's support in Congress is weaker than he may think.
This almost solid support he has among Republicans in Congress. Is there in that support fear?
I think they're terrified to step out of line and get a nasty Truth Social post on them. Yes.
Behind the scenes, do they talk differently?
Yes. I watched many of my colleagues go from making fun of him, making fun of how he talks, making fun of me constantly for supporting him, to when he won the primary in 2024, they all started, excuse my language, Leslie, kissing and decided to put on a MAGA hat for the first time.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to what she says in her observations about how feckless Republicans nevertheless come around to being enthusiastic Trump backers when they realized they had no other choice, and that he was not yielding control of the party in the wake of the 2020 loss, that he would, everyone in the party establishment, conservative media, everyone tried to have it be DeSantis, basically, was the alternative, and Trump said no, and then they all had to come back into the fold. She correctly describes that dynamic, I think.
She does, yeah. I mean, I think, as you would imagine, I think it's pretty disgraceful on the conduct on the part of a lot of Republicans who had rightly identified Trump in that earlier period as a threat to democracy and as someone who was an unacceptable political figure.
Their voters disagreed.
Their
so
voters
they had
disagreed.
To either listen to their voters or, I guess, leave the party.
Yeah, and I mean, what I find...
Some did. Most listened to the voters eventually.
Yeah, I mean, what I find more indefensible about that is people who did, I think, genuinely have opposition that appeared to be principled, that turned out to be completely expedient and able to be erased at a moment's notice. I mean, someone like Lindsey Graham, who now goes around as Trump's best golfing partner and all that, had huge problems and huge criticisms way beyond just oh, we said bad things about each other during a campaign, and then completely turned tail, later.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be, while not ideal, a perfectly rational choice to mute your criticism of some of Trump's personal behavior or whatever in order, if you trying to influence and maintain criticism of him, for instance, Rand Paul has done on tariffs in Venezuela. He could totally estrange himself from Trump and then have no power whatsoever in the direction of the Republican Party, and that would not be an improvement from the standpoint of the ideals I want there to be. It's a rough situation, but it's a situation regardless. She says earlier in that clip that she wants the women, the Epstein victims, to get whatever they want. I did speak last week to Michael Tracy. I interviewed him just personally at great length about the Epstein stuff, and he said that it is a myth that in many of the cases, the victims are actually not bound by non-disclosure agreements, those victims who reach settlements with people that they say abuse them, and that in many cases they could simply say, we wouldn't even need to have Massey go say, although they could do that, say the name, say the information they have, they are fully capable of releasing themselves without actually even getting Trump or Congress to do it, which I found interesting, and I didn't. That was his perspective, and he knows a lot more about this than I do, but that's what he said.
I would. I mean, I'm not expert in who signed what among the many, many, many Epstein victims. I guess my rebuttal to that, though, would be, why should it be on the individual victims to say the thing? If an individual who's named and public comes forward, then they presumably face any repercussions from that. Whereas if it is released through the official and sort of impersonalized channels of the Department of Justice, then that becomes a different thing, and the targeting of individuals becomes at least a lesser risk.
Well, and the answer to that is, even as the New York Times conceded, they wrote something last week saying, well, here are our concerns about releasing the Epstein files, is that it is unusual to release just an investigative file that might contain erroneous information or information that wrongly implicates someone. Now, this is an unusual circumstance where there is extremes levels of public interest in this. So this should be a case where it does get released to satisfy the legitimate public need to know what exactly transpired, but that is atypical. Usually they wouldn't just basically turn over the notes from their investigation. They could have dead ends, things that went nowhere, things that hunches or suspicions they had that didn't pan out.
And people making wild allegations in interviews and things that may not in fact be true. Right. Yeah, I mean, all of that is true. I do think, though, that the Epstein matter is just so unusual, not only because of Trump's apparent hesitation to release the files, but also just because of Epstein himself. I mean, you have a man who is was friends at one point with Donald Trump, was friends at one point with Bill Clinton, with Bill Gates, on and on and on. And never seemed really, while alive, to suffer the rightful consequences of his abuses. There's obvious and understandable public suspicion of that, and that has to be dealt with in some way. Meanwhile, Sydney Sweeney is speaking out about her American Eagle jeans ad that aired over the summer. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back with that.